Hello everyone. Today we are discussing World Constitution and Government, the politics of Switzerland. Switzerland is a semi-direct democratic federal republic. Federal republic means that power is divided equally amongst different units. The federal legislative power in Switzerland is vested in the two chambers of the Federal Assembly, the National Council and the Council of States. Federal Council holds the executive power and is composed of 7 power-sharing federal councillors elected by the Federal Assembly. The Swiss state was established in 1848. This was at a time when revolutions were breaking out in all over Europe. Switzerland exists as a confederation of several autonomous cantons. These cantons have their own governments, and the people living in these cantons often decide legislation through direct democracy. Over the last 700 years, Switzerland has been a confederacy of several independent republics. These republics governed their own territory, however, during times of military necessity, contributed troops and fought together. The old Swiss Confederation, which existed in the late Middle Ages, had 8 independent cantons. They declared their independence from the House of Habsburg, which was a royal house based in Austria, and the Duchy of Burgundy, a royal house based in Italy. The Swiss Reformation period, however, created a rift between the different cantons. This resulted in a drawn-out history of internal strife, where the 13 cantons were constantly in a phase of war. However, when the French Revolution broke out, Switzerland fell to the invasion of a French army and was turned into the Helvetic Republic, which was a French client state. During the chaos of the French Revolution, Napoleon Bonaparte rose to power as the first consul of France. As he came to power, he passed the Act of Mediation in 1803. This act restored the status of Switzerland as a confederation. However, after Napoleon fell in 1815, the Swiss Confederation, owing to the turmoil, plunged into a brief civil war, which happened in 1847. This happened because the Catholic cantons were afraid of losing their autonomy to a central government. The end of the war, however, again brought the Confederation back to power in 1848, as a constitution was passed which guaranteed autonomy to all cantons to govern their territory as they see fit. Coming to Swiss legislature, Switzerland has a bicameral parliament which is called the Federal Assembly. It is divided into an upper house and a lower house. The Council of States is the upper chamber. It has 46 seats, 2 seats per canton, and except for 6 cantons which only have 1. And the lower house is the National Council. National Council has 200 seats, which is split between the cantons based on their population. The Federal Assembly convenes to elect the members of the Federal Council. Federal Council is the chief executive of the Swiss government. This power-sharing system serves to avoid monopolization of federal politics by the cantons that have more population to the detriment of smaller and rural cantons. Members of both houses serve for 4 years and they are directly elected by the citizens. At a cantonal level, citizens assemble every year for the General Assembly, whose purpose is to elect a government and also elect judges of the cantons. This General Assembly is a public, non-secret ballot voting system which operates by majority rule. It also constitutes one of the oldest forms of direct democracy. It is still at use in few places at subnational level in Switzerland, although it was formerly practiced in only 8 cantons. Eligible citizens of the canton meet on a certain day in the open air to decide on specific issues. Voting is accomplished by those in favor of a motion by raising their hands. The General Assembly has been the sovereign institution of the Swiss rural cantons since the later Middle Ages, while in city cantons, a General Assembly of all citizens was never even established. The Swiss Federal Council is a 7-member executive council that heads the federal administration. It operates as a combination between cabinet and collective presidency. Any Swiss citizen eligible to be a member of the National Council can be elected. Candidates do not have to register for the election or to actually be members of National Council. From this Federal Council, the President and Vice President of the country are elected by the Federal Assembly. The Federal Chancellor is the head of the Federal Chancellery, which acts as the general staff of the Federal Council. The Chancellor is the formal head of the Federal Chancellor sector, whose job is to plan and strategize. The sectors are also headed by Vice Chancellors. The Federal Council sector manages the agenda of the Federal Council. The President and Vice President of the Swiss Confederation, who are elected by the Federal Assembly among the members of the Federal Council, are largely ceremonial positions. The President has almost no powers over and above his or her 6 colleagues. He undertakes representative functions which are normally performed by a president or prime minister in single executive systems. The Swiss executive is one of the most stable governments worldwide. Since 1848, it has never been renewed entirely at the same time, providing long-term continuity. From 1959 to 2003, the Federal Council was composed of a coalition of all major political parties. That includes the Free Democratic Party, the Social Democratic Party, Christian Democratic People's Party, and one from Swiss People's Party. Changes in the council occur only if one of the members resigns. This member is almost always immediately replaced by someone from the same party. Switzerland is famous for its referendums, and its citizens have direct control over legislative processes. Citizens can call constitutional and legislative referendums. They are possible only on laws that are passed by legislature. Citizens cannot initiate legislature of their own crafting through legislative referendums. However, the electorate has the right to initiate a constitutional legislation with a federal popular initiative. The possibility for the citizens to challenge any law influences the whole political system. It encourages parties to form coalition governments to minimize the risk that an important party tries to block the action of the government by systematically launching referendums. It also gives greater legitimacy to political decisions. In order to modify a constitution, obligatory votes are required. Such votes are called when Parliament proposes a constitutional modification or when 100,000 citizens sign within 18 months a federal popular initiative that clearly states that a constitutional change is required. Switzerland has a federal Supreme Court. The judges of the Supreme Court are elected for a period of 6 years by the Federal Assembly, which is the Swiss Parliament. The function of the Federal Supreme Court is to hear appeals of cantonal courts or the administrative rulings of the federal administration. Citizens directly cannot approach the Federal Supreme Court. Switzerland does not have a constitutional court, and the Supreme Court cannot comment on law put forward by the Parliament. This way, parliamentary supremacy is ensured. The role of commenting on law is assumed by the people. They act as a guardian and can repeal any legislation or constitutional change. They do so through the procedure of direct democracy by participating in referendums and cantonal assemblies. Thank you for listening. Now let us solve some multiple choice questions. Question 1. Which French leader re-established the Swiss Confederation in 1803? A. Marshal Ney, B. Napoleon Bonaparte, C. Maximilien Robespierre, or D. Georges Boulanger? Answer B. Napoleon Bonaparte. Earlier, in 1798, the French revolutionary forces had invaded Switzerland and established a puppet regime called Helvetic Republic. However, when Napoleon came to power in 1801 and established himself as the first consul, he decided to re-establish the Swiss Confederation as it was before. Question number 2. The chief executive of Switzerland is A. Federal Assembly, B. National Council, C. Federal Council, or D. Council of States? Correct answer is C. Federal Council. Federal Council is a 7-member executive group that is elected directly by the people. These 7 members constitute the chief executive of Switzerland. The Federal Assembly is the name of the Swiss legislature, of which National Council is the lower house and Council of States is upper house. In Switzerland, the president and the vice president are elected by the Federal Assembly, but they have no other duties other than being a ceremonial head. Actual power is commanded by the Federal Council.